In the last video, we talked about cells and organelles and all the organelles' functions. Now, in this video, we will be talking about cell transport. Now, there are three main types of cell transport, even though you can probably say it's four if you would like. Now, the first type of cell transport is diffusion. Diffusion Diffusion is, let me give you an example of what diffusion is. So this is a cell, and this is its membrane. It's right over here is its membrane. And we talked about what a cell membrane does. It is the gatekeeper of the cell. And so it's going to let things in and out of the cell. So if I have a high concentration of, let's say, water, and I have a relatively low concentration of salt. Oh, these black dots are going to be represented as salt. And I have the opposite out here. I have a lot of salt out here, a lot more salt compared to inside the cell, but not as much water. So what's going to happen is the water is going to diffuse. See this diffusion, right? So going to diffuse out of the cell. The water is just going to diffuse out of the cell to reach equilibrium so that there is the same amount of concentration of water and salt inside and out of the cell. That is what diffusion is. Now, the second type is active transport. Now, active transport, I'm going to show the same example. Active transport is not going to be from high concentration of water to low concentration of water. It's going to be the opposite. So instead, I would really have the same thing. So let me do this. Let me just Control C and Control V. Okay. So I have the same image really, but instead it's not going to go from high to low. Instead, it's going to go from low to high concentration, which is against the concentration gradient. So this active transport right here and diffusion's right here, this is with concentration gradient, concentration gradient, and this is against concentration gradient. And why is it against, you might ask? Why is it against the concentration gradient? I mean, it looks fine either way. Well, this is the thing. Even though it might look fine, well, it's using ATP, which is a form of energy, to move the molecules from low to high. Because usually to reach equilibrium, and this will not reach equilibrium of the concentration of molecules, usually it would just go from high concentration to low concentration, which is what's happening here. Here, it's going from low to high, which signifies that this is active transport. It is using ATP. There's no ATP involved. And the third and final, if you want to call it final, uh, type of cell transport is osmosis. Now, this is just really the same thing as diffusion, um, as its definition is the diffusion of water. So clearly, what I just explained right here. Now, there is a fourth one too, if you want to count this. This is called passive transport. And you might be saying, wow, that's very related. Maybe it's almost the same as active. Maybe it's related to active. No, passive transport is actually the same as diffusion. While active uses ATP, passive does not use ATP. Does not need to use ATP to go from high to low. It goes from high to low. So these are the four types of cell transport. Now, let's talk about the different type of osmosis. These are going to be the different types of osmosis. All right. So the first type of osmosis that you have to be aware about is going to be hypotonic. So hypotonic. And the prefix hypo means below, or like beneath, while so hypotonic would mean that it is going, excuse me, it means that there's more water outside, which would be the case where if I have another cell right here, of course this isn't drawn to scale, and of course again I have water, but this time the water molecules, which are in red, are fewer inside the cell than outside the cell. And I'm not gonna do the salt in this case. What's gonna happen is since there's more water outside, it's gonna swell up, right? Because the water, it's gonna go from outside to inside, from high concentration of water to low concentration of water. This is with the concentration gradient as shown here, which is diffusion, passive transport, osmosis. Um, so the cell will swell, and honestly, it might burst. It might even burst if it swells up too much. This is just a burst effect. So there's going to be so much water rushing in that it might swell up and potentially burst. So this is hypotonic. This is a hypotonic solution right here. This is hypotonic. The second one is hypertonic. And the prefix hyper, this means above. Like if you're hyperactive, you're more than active. You're extremely active. Let me tell you what hypertonic looks like. So hypertonic means there's more solute. And you know what? Because there's solute involved, I'm gonna put there's a lot of solute. We're still on the hypotonic. There's a lot of solute in here, but not enough here. Just a little bit. Here, it's the complete opposite. It would be there's more solute outside, and there would be more water inside. See that red is the water and the black is the solute. And there's more solute out, you can clearly see outside the cell than inside. So, well, what do you think is going to happen? Well, you can probably guess. It's going to shrink. It's going to shrivel up, right? So instead of water rushing inside the cell, well, the water is going to go out because there's more water inside the cell. It's going to diffuse out to reach equilibrium so that there's the same amount of concentration of water as there is salt. And this is going to leave the cell looking smaller. It's going to look extremely small. And actually, it's not going to look exactly like that. It's going to shrivel up. So you're going to see it's shriveling up and potentially implode. This is might explode. And finally, the last type of osmosis is isotonic. And you're probably saying now, well, there's definitely nothing that there can't be like anything else because hypotonic is when there's more water outside the cell, and hypertonic is when there's more solute outside of the cell. So, like, what's isotonic? Well, isotonic is when the concentration is balanced. So there's the same amount of water as there is salt or solute outside and inside the cell. It would look like this, and nothing really would happen. Everything would stay balanced and equal. And so those are the three types of osmosis. Hypotonic, which is when the water rushes into the cell, which causes the cell to burst potentially by swelling up. Hypertonic, which is imploding due to water rushing out of the cell to maintain equilibrium. And isotonic, a balanced solution.